Might be on vacation. I heard everything about that. Oh, 2 minutes. And they give it over to. We ready to go? Yeah.
Good evening, everyone. Let me call to order the CRTPO board meeting for June 17th, 2026. Let me just recognize a new member to the board. Tom, I told you I'd do this, so welcome. Tom is a new appointee from the village of Marvin. We have a new alternate from the city of Monroe, James Carr. Anyone else new?
Right here.
There you are.
See you.
And Robert Carney's here representing the town of Cornelius. Everybody else is familiar faces. Thank you. The first item up is the adoption of the agenda. May I have a motion to approve?
If I may, I have a motion. I'd like to add an item to the agenda if possible.
Mr. Carr, you're recognized.
I would like to add to the agenda a motion to reconsider the May 20th, 26th vote of this board to rescind its support of the October 2024 resolution passed by CRTPO related to the E3 delivery model for the I-77 South project.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Carr. We have a motion. We have a second. Let's open up for some discussion. The motion is to add an item to the agenda. It would go at the bottom of the agenda by our rules to reconsider the vote we took last month to be taken at a future date. Discussion.
Chair.
Mr. Driggs.
So I gather I missed an exciting meeting last month. And I am not going to support the motion because it's not clear to me that the outcome of the vote will be different. And I've been advised by a source in Raleigh that the towns that voted to change their position would not be included in the recovery process. So I think it was sufficient, based on what I'm told, that you took the action that you did without the CRTPO having to vote and you having to cast a vote different from your last one. So for tonight, I would prefer that we not vote, and you can verify, you can talk to sources. But again, what I'm told is that since you did what you did, you wouldn't be subject to the refund demand.
It would just be a great opportunity to hear from all the other board members. Perhaps there's more information disseminated and there could be further discussion that might be productive.
Let me remind everyone, if you don't have a mic near you, please find one.
It's not picking up.
Not sufficiently.
I can hear you, but
I think it would be beneficial to the board to have more input on this item. A little bit of time has passed and certainly there's a tremendous amount of information that's being disseminated. Most of it true. I thought it might be a good chance for the board collective to weigh in on the decisions that have been made, particularly by our city and maybe by others, since we all live in this same community and I think we all want what's best for the Charlotte region.
Thank you. Ms. Altman?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would also vote against adding this motion to reconsider tonight to the comments just made. We certainly will have the opportunity to talk about this business item under agenda item 11 and 12. So I think we'll have a full opportunity to do what you've said without teeing this up for action tonight.
Any more comments? Mr. Long, Town of Mint Hill?
Yeah, as a representative of the town of Mint Hill, we'd like to revisit this. So I do support the vote. Have been in touch with people in Raleigh in the last hour and probably respectfully disagree with Mr. Driggs that Mint Hill supports moving forward.
More discussion? Then we'll
Yeah.
take a vote.
The town of Cornelius certainly supports putting this vote in tonight if possible. A lot has happened since that last vote took place. I think there were comments prior that we needed to further investigate, further discuss, and I think that is incredibly important. But the town of Cornelius and myself, I realize my vote doesn't have as much weight as some in here. We would love to have that opportunity to bring that back forth tonight.
Mr. Bell, Town of Weddington, then Mr. Murray, Mayor of
Wait,
Waxaw.
would, support adding this as well, because I think it's critical that we hear. And, since it's such a controversial issue, it should be added and not, thrown on the table. So I support adding this.
Mayor Murray.
I concur. One of the comments I made last month was by voting to rescind, we were opening a potential can of worms filled with unknowns. And in the last month, I think a lot of us have been educated on what some of those unknowns are. And we're discovering that the chickens are coming home to roost potentially. And I think a new discussion with a new vote might be necessary.
Recognize Mayor Higdon, then Mr. Knox, Mayor Knox.
Yeah, I'd just like to say that I agree with Commissioner Altman that we'll have plenty of opportunity to discuss this under agenda item number 11, and all the information can come out, everybody can speak, so there's no need to vote tonight.
Mayor Knox.
I would concur with what Commissioner Altman, Councilman Driggs, and Mayor Higdon said. I think putting this to a vote tonight has not given us any opportunity for enlightenment or additional information at this time.
Thank you. Let me just pause discussion and clarify one thing, then we'll call for a vote. The motion you're voting on at this moment would be to add an item to tonight's agenda. The item we would be voting on would be directing the board to reconsider. We wouldn't reconsider tonight. It would be likely a July reconsideration if that matters. But I think we've got enough sentiment in the room that we can take a vote. Remember, we vote by weighted vote. We're going to do a roll call because this is really important when we all have a weighted vote. Did I miss anyone who needed to speak that felt like they needed to?
Yeah, I made a comment last time that we took a vote hastily because Charlotte City Council and Mecklenburg County had discussed these items with their board, but yet the municipalities around the room here did not have the opportunity to discuss that information. And here we are coming back and saying we want to reconsider and talk about this vote and the impacts of this vote. So I think it's foolish to say, no, we don't need to revote this. We need to move on. So here we are. We got several municipalities who are coming back to the table and say, wait a minute, we've got some further information that we've received, but yet, no, we're not going to reconsider. So I think it's an opportunity for further discussion and deliberation to understand the impacts of the decision that was made last month.
Thank you. We'll take a vote for the record. I think Mr. Driggs was correct. There are probably not enough votes to add this to the agenda tonight, but for the record, I'll have our CEO, Neil, is on vacation this week. So Bob is standing in very ably. We'll be tallying the votes. We will do a roll call vote in situations like this. So Bob, I'll hand it over to you.
Okay, very good.
Let me restate would you restate the motion, Mr. Carr, so we don't?
To the motion, I would like to add to the agenda a motion to reconsider the May 20th, 26 vote of this board to rescind its support of the October 2024 resolution passed by CRTPO related to the P3 delivery model of the I-77 South project.
Thank you. The vote is to add it to the agenda. Yes, Mr. Driggs.
Clarification, you say reconsider. Is that an action item?
Yes.
It's your intention then, just to be clear, right? Your intention that tonight there could be a vote on the question of whether to rescind by this body. Right?
Ideally.
No, Mayor, the chair wouldn't allow that. The chair would allow the board to vote to add it to the agenda. That's what we're talking about now. The vote later would be to direct the board to reconsider. To Mr. Jones's point, I'm not sure that anyone comes tonight prepared to speak for their entire board. We've seen that happen once or twice. So I'd like you to leave the room if this is on the agenda and if it were successfully passed, return to your boards, come back at a future meeting with your board's direction. I'd like to ask that to be included in the motion that it's for a future date.
Is that a friendly
Is that
amendment?
acceptable?
That's a friendly amendment?
Yes, sir.
I would accept that.
Thank you. All right, let's take a vote.
I have a question. We did this last month. We're doing it again. To me, unless it's an emergency vote that needs to be done, anything that's given to us that same night and added to the agenda need to come up the following month. So I'm not real sure what the procedures and the policy is on this subject matter, but I feel that it's really not fair.
Ms. Staten, let me just
And I
clarify.
understand what their question is. I understand what we're doing. I'm talking about in general, just the fact that we're adding agenda items. And it's not a true emergency that we have to vote tonight. And we're adding items that could be put on the following, we could put it next month. And I just wanted to say it because it happened last month and I was in agreement with you. And now we're doing it again. And how fair is it to all of us?
Thank you. Okay. We clear on the motion to add to the agenda?
Brad, can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
I'm just trying to make sure I'm clear. So this motion is to put an agenda item tonight to talk about whether to have a vote another time.
Correct.
So there's probably no vote tonight. It's just to talk about
No.
the vote at some other time.
Correct. It's confusing and I'll allow that. It's a very confusing issue. The vote now is to add an item to the agenda tonight. The vote later tonight, if it were on the agenda, would be to reconsider at a future date.
I got it.
Okay. Thank y'all for your patience. It's very confusing. I think we got it now.
Okay. All right, I'll go through this alphabetically. Charlotte? No. Cornelius? Yes. Davidson?
No.
Huntersville?
Yes.
Indian Trail?
Yes.
Marshville?
Yes.
Marvin?
Yes.
Matthews?
No.
Mecklenburg County?
No.
Mineral Springs?
Yes.
Min Hill?
Yes.
Monroe?
Yes.
Mooresville?
Yes.
Stallings?
Yes.
Statesville?
Yes.
Troutman?
Yes.
Union County?
Yes.
Waxhaw?
Yes.
Weddington?
Yes.
Wesley Chapel's not here tonight.
Wesley Chapel is absent.
Do
Do you need just a minute? Oh,
No, I just, Division 10,
Yes.
Division 12.
Absent.
Oh, so, okay.
I vote for him.
you may not. I don't know.
You're
I
not the
don't know how that
alternate.
works.
Well, he is the alternate for Division 12, which of Division 12 is not.
Rosenberg's for division. Are you sure about that?
Let me double check.
He is.
Yes, he's the alternate for both 10 and 12.
They did.
Okay.
Yes.
Will or Emily, do we have the tally? Did the motion pass? Motion failed. Motion failed.
Thank you. The motion failed. Can I have a motion to adopt the agenda as presented?
Who moved?
Motion second. All in favor? Thank you. All right. Thank you guys for that. The agenda is adopted as presented. As stated before, I'll have an update at the end of the meeting, I-77. It is really procedural, not editorial. So we'll talk about things and you'll have an opportunity. I would ask you to move your comments on this item or any item to the board member comment section. That'll just help the meeting flow a little quicker if that's okay. All right, we have one public speaker signed up tonight. We're opening the public comment period. I'll ask Mr. Smith to approach. Thank you. You have 3 minutes. Appreciate you being here again.
I just want to say to the board about last month, thank you for taking the vote that you took and for rescinding the project. I realize that it was for some of you a potentially risky situation. That being said, you were making the right decision for future generations. And part of the reason we found ourselves here is, if you remember last month when we were going through later through the project, we're looking actually at the way that our funding formulas are set up for projects. So it's a 90-10 split. That 90-10 split means that 90% goes to road projects. That means you only have 10% to split between sidewalks, greenways, bicycle lanes, mass transit, unless you have a transit tax. And so it leaves you in a situation where you're sometimes forced to try to expand the highway when there are better alternatives out there. So the one thing I would ask you, while Raleigh is currently saber rattling and trying to scare people into doing what NCDOT wants, because let's be honest, that's what it is, because the things that they have suggested with the amendment, several lawyers have come out and said that it's unconstitutional. So for a variety of sections of the North Carolina Constitution. So what I would like to ask the board and the members of these town councils is go back to your representatives in Raleigh and say, hey, we need more funding for different projects. We need to change the way that some funding is allocated so that places like Charlotte, which do need more mass transit, and smaller towns like Weddington and Waxhaw and things like that that need more funding for roads presently, and Union County get that, so that we have a solution that works for everybody. One that doesn't require us destroying people's homes in Charlotte, that doesn't actually solve the problem by providing the people in our region within the city of Charlotte alternatives and the funding to actually implement those alternatives. Because we're not expecting that everybody's going to, in Charlotte or, you know, in your cities, are going to bike or walk everywhere. But by ensuring that you have the funding and that you're providing people alternative ways to get to their jobs within the major job center of the region, benefits your towns, benefits Charlotte. It
Thank you, Mr.
benefits.
Smith. That was 3 minutes. You can wrap up.
All right. And I just want to say, please don't back down from your position.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. All right. That was the only speaker.
Sir.
All right. Next up on the agenda, ethics awareness from Bob Cook.
In accordance with the State Government Ethics Act, it is the duty of every board member to avoid conflicts of interest. Does any board member have any known conflict of interest with respect to any matters coming before the board today? If so, please identify the conflict and refrain from any participation in the particular matter involved.
Hearing none, thank you. We'll move to the consent agenda. 2 items, board. Oh, you're making a motion to approve from Mr. Becker.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Item number 6, we're going to have Travis Johnson staff come up and talk about the 2028-2037 TIP development process, also known as NCDOT Prioritization 8.0, an update. Thank you, Travis. Welcome.
Thank you. One second, I'm doing a brief tech support. There we go. And let's shrink this. Oh, it's not great. Well, then we don't need to worry about that. Hi, everyone. Travis Johnson, tech support and TCC employee or CRTPO employee. There we go. There we go. Here to talk to you about prioritization 8.0. We're going to go over a brief overview of what's been happening over the past few weeks, talk about a funding update. We'll then go through the statewide mobility project list and where we stand on regional impact and division needs, local input point allocation. We'll talk about local contribution, which is another opportunity to enhance some project scores, discuss the public input timeframe, and talk about next steps. So the CRTPO received the draft P.8.0 prioritization 8.0 project scores on May 28th. And with that, we also received updating funding levels. So with that project list, the statewide mobility projects, which are entirely selected with the quantitative score from the spot office, were shared with us. And so now we have the opportunity to add regional or local input points to regional impact projects and division needs projects. Those lists of projects were shared in your agenda packet, and we'll have QR codes that you can scan to see those lists. We're working with your staff during transportation staff meetings these past few weeks. We've met at the June 3rd, 10th, and 17th transportation staff meeting. We're going to meet again next week, and we're going through the project list, talking about local input points, and going to have a draft list for you at your July meeting. We also met with staff for Division 10 and 12 yesterday to discuss our draft project list and identify projects for potential mutual point assignment. As I shared previously, we can affect up to 30% of the total project score for regional impact and 50% of the total project score for division needs projects. And half of that comes from the MPO and the other half for the division. So we really optimize our chances of getting a project funded by both the division and the MPO applying points to the same project. The latest funding estimate we received is a change from the 2025 numbers. I just realized I forgot to change the date on this slide, so I apologize. It's May 28, 2026. But the updated numbers from 2025, we saw a $31 million reduction for the Region E projects. And so this is Mecklenburg and Union. We did see a $66 million increase for Region F, which would affect Iredell. And then for Division Needs, we saw an increase of $44 million and then a reduction of 22 for Division 10 and 12. It's important to note also these are estimated funding levels. We'll be receiving updated numbers throughout the prioritization process. So if we receive any updated information, we'll share that with you. But this is just what the funding for new projects is anticipated for this prioritization process. For statewide mobility, 6 projects were selected in highway, and then 3 projects were selected for rail in the statewide category. We're seeing 4 intersection and interchange improvements, 1 express lane project, and then a widening. And then for the rail projects, it's 3 grade separations. So for interchange improvement at I-85 and I-485 in Northeast Mecklenburg County, I-6012 was selected or is proposed for selection at the end of the process. It would be officially selected. I-485 from I-77 to I-85 exit 10 would be to construct 1 express lane each direction. US 74 in Union from Indian Trail Fairview Road to North Rocky River Road, and this is to widen to 6 lanes. Billy Graham Parkway for Billy Graham Parkway and Mooresfield Drive at this intersection at grade interchange and grade separation in West Charlotte. And then another Billy Graham Parkway at NC 160 in West Boulevard, convert at grade intersection to a grade separation intersection or interchange. We also have for US 21 and I-77 in Tyvola to mitigate congestion from I-77, improving from West Park Drive to Nations 4 Road in Southwest Charlotte and making enhancements to the 77 access ramps. And then for the rail projects, it's the Norfolk Southern Main Line at Old Dow Road in Charlotte, and that's to construct a grade separation at Old Dow Road and the closure of a separate crossing near Charlotte. There's the North Carolina Railroad and Norfolk Southern Main Line and Orr Road, and this is the grade separation project as well. And then the main line in West Summit Avenue to construct a grade separation at West Summit Avenue. So all these projects are currently in the short list for selection. So the statewide projects would move forward pending any new information from NCDOT spot office. Moving on to regional impact, in your project, in your agenda packets, you received our project list for regional impact For this prioritization cycle, due to the limited funding that we saw, we're not recommending projects to cascade. And working with our division partners, we believe that they are not doing that as well. So with that, we're going to apply local input points to our projects. And so right now we have it essentially 2,450 going to highway and only 50 points going to a non-highway project. And this is most of our non-highway projects in the regional impact tier were submitted by neighboring jurisdictions. And typically those projects receive local input points through donation or coordination. Then the one project we had was a CATS project for buses from Gastonia to Charlotte. However, because half the project's in Mecklenburg and half the project is in Gaston, Cleveland, Lincoln MPO, we could only, the maximum amount of local input points is the percentage is in our planning area. So that would be 50. So with the lack of other non-highway regional impact, we diverted those points to highway. And so we'll be coming back with that list next month. And these allocations, we're still kind of finalizing these allocations with the staff of everyone's jurisdictions at the transportation staff meetings. But this is where we are currently with local input points for regional impact. For division needs, again, we're not recommending that cascading. Right now, we're looking at putting 2,100 points for highway and 400 for non-highway. This would include an aviation project, a transit project, and 2 bicycle and pedestrian projects. So we allocate typically one for non-highway, we allocate 100 points to each non-highway mode. And then a second allotment is to the second highest ranked project for all of non-highway. So that equaled out into a second bicycle and pedestrian project because those were our 2 highest scoring non-highway projects. And so again, the list is for what projects were considered in highway, non-highway is at the QR code and it's available in your agenda packet, but we'll be coming back with that local input point list for your July meeting. When you're looking at that project list, you'll see the project score for your projects. And through the STI process, there is an ability to alter the cost to benefit ratio. And so what that means is if the community is willing to add additional financial support to a project, you can effectively improve that cost benefit score for NCDOT by adding funds to the project. So if you see a project and you say like, it's really important for your community and you're willing to commit your dollars to it, it can affect that one category for prioritization. It's important to note that this does not buy your project into the short list, and it has the ability to affect a small amount of the score, but it's not going to take you from like 50 points to 100 points. It's a small percentage of the overall project, but it is a way to increase your score. So in order to submit a local contribution, we just need a commitment from the jurisdiction, officially assigning dollars, committing that you're going to spend those funds if the project is selected. So when we submit our local input points, that project would receive that bonus of the local contribution. And also by committing to that local contribution, if you decide in the future you do not want to commit those funds, that project then would be stands a chance of being re-ranked and reconsidered because that local contribution is then tied to that final project score. So when you're looking through your projects list and when you see the regional impact or the local input points during the July meeting, if you like to add additional local contribution to that project, we'll just need letters of commitment by August 12th. And again, that is if the project is selected. For public engagement, we received an updated schedule for the timeline for P8 in April. And the biggest change for that was it changed, or while we maintained a comment period from June to August for regional input points, there was a reduction in our division needs local input points assignment window, reducing it to October and November. So because of that reduction and also because of the limited funds, we're recommending that we do a combined public comment period for regional impact and division needs local input point assignment. So when we come back to you in July, we're going to be asking to open a 30-day public comment period from July 16th to August 14th. And then we're going to do media release, share the draft point assignment, have maps on the website, social media promotion, and essentially just collect feedback on where we're assigning those local input points. get feedback from the public, and then come back to this board for action in August. We also shared that with the TCC that this comment period would go over beyond when the TCC meeting would be held. However, the members on the transportation staff meeting phone call felt comfortable that since we predominantly receive our public feedback early on in the comment process, that as long as we present any updated public comments at a future transportation staff meeting prior to coming to the board, they would feel comfortable with still making a recommendation due to the timeline. So again, next month, we're going to come and ask to open a public comment period. In August, we'll be asking to finalize those local input points. And the TCC so far has agreed that the TCC will not need to see the complete final list in a formal setting, but they're willing to review it at a transportation staff meeting. So for next steps, we're going to continue working with the local jurisdictions to create the draft local input point allocation spreadsheet for regional impact and division needs. We're coming back in July to TCC and to the board with that local input point allocations and to open that public comment period. And if you see a project that you would like to add local contribution commitments to, that commitment letter is going to be due by August 12th. And if you have any questions about that, we'll work with you and your staff to manage that process. So with that, I can answer any questions about.
Great. We'll open for questions now. Just a comment from me. This is often very detailed, and I still don't get all of this every time we do this every year, and that's fine. But I wanted to give you some solace that you have a TCC member. Travis mentioned that several times. Technical Coordinating Committee.
Yep.
Is that even close?
Yep.
Yeah. Staff member from your jurisdiction sits on a body that dives into the details along with your manager of your town or county. Spend some time with them. I did see a deadline of August 12th to do some local commitments. Understand what that means. In your packet's a hyperlink to take you to a list of projects both on these 3 tiers. Don't feel bad if you don't get it all tonight, but do talk to your town manager and your TCC rep about what you ought to be doing or bringing here between now and August. Does that make sense? Now we'll open for questions.
Question here.
Mayor Murray.
When you mentioned local contributions improving your score, could you speak a little bit more about?
So one of the
It's
factors.
not like $1 for point or anything like that, but
So
how much does that really help?
Right. So there's a factor in the score, which I don't have in this. I presented earlier about the cost to NCDOT, and that's the total cost of the project versus how much it costs to NCDOT. And that's a certain percentage of the total score. So that comes into effect twice. This is very detailed, sorry. First, when you make the initial contribution to the project, when we originally submit that then affects the overall scaling score. But for this instance, which is the second opportunity, so let's say that score for cost to NCDOT is, let's say, like it's 10 points because you didn't add any local contribution, but the value based upon their algorithm gets it to that score. By adding local contribution, you are reducing the cost to NCDOT, improving the weight of the other factors because essentially you're getting more bang for your buck. You're getting more dollar for what you're spending. So you can affect it within that scoring range of that one factor, but you're talking about 5 points. It's really for like, if you're a tie, you might be able to, jump one project if it's like together, but it's not going, again, you can't buy your way. It's not like if you have a project that scores a 6, you're not then going to move it to 100 points by putting in $100,000.
So you're affecting a piece of a piece.
Yeah, a piece of a piece at a later time. So it is a way to improve a score, but you're not leapfrogging everyone else.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll be open. Oh, Mr. Rosenberg, please.
Chairman, just a comment. Robert, it really does have a positive effect, and I'm surprised more municipalities don't do it. And you should be doing it where you can do it if you have the resources.
It's a consideration we hold in Waxhaw seriously in terms of how much we want to kick in. So we're sitting there with our chips, looking at our hand, just figuring out how much to push in to improve our odds on getting that
We'll
project.
let you do 100%. We're not proud.
Exactly.
But if you like, again, have your TCC member reach out to me, I can walk through the equation. We can come up with a best guess of how much we would affect the project. Again, it does affect it. It is very positive, but it can only do so much. Just have a reasonable expectation for what you'll get out of it. And especially seeing the funding levels we have more projects than funding.
Thank you.
Last call for questions on this. You'll see this again next month to open the public comment period. Thank you, Travis.
Thank you.
Next item, number 7, Andy Graminsky from Central Carolina will talk to us about a small group meetings that have been happening between our board and the neighboring MPO in Gaston, Cleveland, Lincoln, MPO. Andrew, thank you for joining us tonight. Please update us.
All right. Well, thank you very much. I was back for this group, I believe last fall, kind of talking the purpose of this process. And now that we've wrapped up our 3 meetings, I'm here to kind of give you an update. So just as a refresher, our areas are both on the Gaston side and Mecklenburg side. We're just growing together. So we have more and more issues that aren't Mecklenburg issues or Gaston issues or Division 10 issues or Division 12. They're just our region issues, and we try to find ways that we can work together. So based on the last year's joint MPO meeting that we have every year, recommendation was to form this joint legislative priorities coalition between the 2 MPOs. The purpose would be to bring information about legislation, both federal and state, to this body. And are there recommendations or policies that we want to advocate and advocate for and so forth. Also look at, are there projects that cross our borders that we should both be working on them together instead of each MPO separately. So this was the coalition members. We had 4 members from each MPO. So on the Gaston side, we had the chair and the vice chair, as well as reps from Cleveland County and Belmont. And the 3 meetings, the first one was really kind of to understand better the prioritization process, kind of what Travis was just talking about. Then the second meeting was looking at federal legislation, which Brian will talk about shortly. And are there ways that we can advocate for any kind of improvements? And also start looking at identify those projects that cross our boundaries. And the last one was start looking at the state legislation and see what kind of things will affect our MPOs, as well as what are our next steps for the coalition, since we're no longer having meetings, but there's still work to be done. So just some highlights. Our first meeting, we had Tony Lathrop talk about the importance of regional collaboration. Our third meeting, we had John Torbett from the NC House talk about the STI process and his involvement at the beginning. There is a committee that's looking at potential changes. So we want to make sure that we're aware of what those changes would be, because honestly, overall, we're doing very, very well with STI. The factors that it consists of are really consistent with what our projects are. Also give the updates on the both federal and state legislation, and then the concept of regionally important projects, which are really projects that cross MPO lines and require maybe a little more coordination than normal. So while you can't lobby, you can advocate for your attributes what you want the next Transportation Act to consist of. You can educate other members of your councils and so forth and the general public, and you can actually make efforts on trying to move some of this legislation forward that would be to the interest of your MPO. So real quick, the major priorities, I'm just going to give the titles, but we want to preserve strong, predictable federal formula funding. We want to balance state flexibility with funding local priorities, advance faster project delivery with support for local capacity, and last, just make sure we maintain a strong, clear focus on transportation safety. So other things that we're talking about are all kind of subsets of those 4. So this is a list of the projects that we've identified that cross the lines, and we're looking at construction projects, but also potential planning projects. So there are a lot of projects that have different elements that do cross the line. So how can we kind of work together on some of them? One thing that did come up was the I-85 corridor. It's a huge freight corridor affecting really the whole Southeast. 34% of the trips are freight related. It's only one of 4 connections between Mecklenburg and Union. If you think about the connections between Mecklenburg and Iredell or Union, 4 connections is not a lot. And it's really a primary route for both sides to get to the airport and intermodal yard. So it's really important corridor. Luckily, there are about $1.5 billion worth of projects that are in the TIP that are going to affect that, both 85, 74, the 485, 85 interchange. So there's definitely money coming our way, but we want to make sure we understand a little better what the impacts are going to be and what we can do to maybe share information about it, as well as see if there's alternatives to having to drive and commute across the river. So really the next steps, we are developing a joint letter from both MPOs to the federal House and Senate delegation to kind of say, here are our wants for the federal legislation. The second is there'll be individual engagement with legislators, both at the federal level and state level. Work together to understand the impacts of 85 and what can we do to just make that construction period, probably about 10-year period, make a little more better for commuters to make during that time, and then report back at our next joint MPO meeting, which I believe is being looked at for this fall. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions, but I'd like to thank the members of the coalition. There's a lot of work, good work done, and hopefully we see some benefits from it.
Questions for Mr. Gaminsky? None. Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
Item number 8, welcome Brian Elgort, a staff member, to the podium to talk about the Build America 250 Act. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you, Board, and thank you, Andy, for teeing me up a little bit. Tonight, I'm here to talk to you all about the Build America 250 Act. I'm going to start with a couple of caveats. I thought about just having a whole acknowledgements and disclosure slide of this is information that we are building off of resources from national organizations like the Association of MPOs, the Local Officials in Transportation Coalition. So we're sort of combined a lot of information. And this is a fast changing process. So things can change sort of sporadically and randomly. But the Federal Surface Transportation Reauthorization process is what Congress undergoes to determine federal transportation funding levels and policies. This typically occurs every 5 to 6 years, and the current bill, the Infrastructure Investments and Jobs Act, is set to expire at the end of September. How does this impact MPOs and local governments? The Federal Transportation Reauthorization process determines how much funding will be available, how that funding is distributed to states, regions, and local communities, as well as opportunities to compete for federal competitive grants. It also determines the types of project that will qualify for funding, how those projects will be prioritized, how quickly projects can be approved and built, and it also dictates some rules that guide transportation planning and investment decisions. The Building Unrivaled Infrastructure and Long-Term Development for America's 250th Act, or I'm just going to call it the BUILD Act from now on. Draft text was released 1 month ago by the House Transportation and Infrastructure Committee. The following Thursday, May 21st, the committee met, I think it was over 15 hours to do their markup, and the text passed out of committee 62-2. And it's now being reviewed for revenue purposes by the House Ways and Means Committee. And the last line is what really matters. As we look through the rest of it, understand that the final bill will change and will not look exactly like what we're walking through today. This is just the first major sort of federal building block for what the final text will be. Some quick highlights. Local and regional entities will receive about 22% of federal transportation funding, which is slightly up from 21% through IIJA. The total authorization for federal fiscal years 2027 through 2031 totals just under $581 billion. With that, it's split up several different ways. We've highlighted here the core highway formula funding programs will receive just under $294 billion. Transit will receive around $87 billion, and the Safe Streets and Roads for All program will receive $3.75 billion over that same federal fiscal timeline. There's also some permitting and project readiness process changes that we're monitoring. There are also some programs that would be repealed through the Build America 250 Act. The National Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Formula Program, the Carbon Reduction Program, the Promoting Resilient Operations for Transformative, Efficient, and Cost-Saving Transportation, or PROTECT program. That for PROTECT, the formula programs being repealed, the competitive grant program would continue.
And finally, the Active Transportation Infrastructure Investment Program would also be repealed. Metropolitan Planning Program and PL funds, these are what the MPO uses to do what we do. This program is expected to receive a 9.6% increase from FY26 to FY27, which is actually the largest increase of any of the core federal programs. The federal share would be increased from 80 to 90%, therefore reducing the local match down to 10%. They are expanding the eligible activities for PL funding. And when they say expand, it's really codifying things that are treated differently in different parts of the country. So some of those examples are preliminary design, local technical assistance, and data procurement. And lastly, MPOs will be able to apply to become direct recipients of PL funds only. And with that would gain access to the federal aid financial management system. Like I said, this is an opt-in program that would allow MPOs to be direct recipients and become fiscal stewards. So other new programs and provisions includes fees for electric vehicles and hybrid vehicles that would provide the first new revenue stream for the Highway Trust Fund since the 1990s. There's the Grants for Rebuilding America's Vital Engineering Structures, or GRAVES program, which establishes a bridge formula program as well as a bridge discretionary program. There's a new Surface Transportation Accelerator Grant Program, which our understanding is it will be similar to the RAISE/BUILD grant program and sort of its wide applicability. And there's also a new emphasis on what they're calling digital infrastructure. So this is public and private technology assets that create, exchange, secure, or use data. And these are now going to be fundable through some of the federal transportation programs. Some items that we're also monitoring. There's a new alternative fuel minimum share requirement for congestion management and air quality improvement program projects. And we're trying to get some clarification of what exactly that entails, but it seems like there's a minimum % of funds have to be spent on alternative fuel projects. There's also two consolidated programs, the Consolidated Funding Pilot Program and the Consolidated Transit Block Grant Program. These would allow states to opt into programs where they would receive all their formula funds in lump sums that then they could distribute sort of independently of how they were allocated. And lastly, the consolidation and restructuring of passenger rail programs. Expectations and next steps. As of right now, we have 105 days until IIJ expires. In the House, we're looking at potential passage of the Build America Act in late June, possibly July. In the Senate, there haven't been any bills introduced yet on any of the three committees. Therefore, an extension or continuation is highly likely. This isn't unusual. This has happened in previous reauthorization processes. Under an extension or continuation, our formula funding programs would continue, but there would be no new rounds of federal competitive grant programs. So that funding would not flow. As we learn more, we will continue to keep our members informed. But that is the latest and greatest we have as of right now. So I'm happy to take any questions, but I'll probably have to come back to you with real answers.
Thanks, Brian. Do we have questions from our board at this point? Great update. Yeah. All right, hearing none, thank you. We'll move to item number 9. Bob Cook with upcoming agenda items.
Sorry about that. Thank you. Next month, we have just 2 items identified thus far. Travis talked about opening a public comment period for the P8 process, and we also may have some tip amendments from the city of Statesville projects coming that were funded through the discretionary grants program. But that's it for now, but more to come most likely.
Thank you. Division 10, Division 12 of NCDOT submitted their reports, their hyperlinks on your agenda. Anything else to add? Okay. Division 12. Thank you. Right. Item number 11. I added this to kind of talk about some of the things we'll be doing in the next couple of months or 6 months or so related to the vote we took last month. It is procedural. As I said before to many of you, it's not editorial at all. I asked staff to put together some of the list of things, timelines and such. We believe and understand that the NC Board of Transportation is scheduled to hear about our item and consider removing funding for the I-77 project in July, with action to occur not until their August meeting. We're blessed to have the chair of the board of the state on our board. So board member comments, he may make a statement to that effect if he'd like to. That happens outside of our control. Things we must do is, because our TIP program, Transportation Improvement Program, no longer aligns with the states, we will then work to remove the I-77 project from our TIP. They must match, right? Or we have federal funds at risk. We don't quite know who goes first. That's a question the FWHA is working on right now. Either they go first or we, but it doesn't matter. We'll have to get those in alignment. We just adopted an MTP in March. We'll go back and redo that. Remember, there was a portion of that that's a fiscally constrained, fancy word for projects that have money, attachment to that. We have now a project that may not have money, so we'll need to take the amendment to remove, change the fiscally constrained project list and readopt our MTP. The last thing, there's an air quality component of this. Removing a project, adding a project after it's been adopted changes some air quality triggers. We'll have to work with our regional partners in Cabarrus, Gaston, Cleveland to do that, all of which can be done and will take probably 6 to 12 months, staff tells me. So don't think we're past this. We'll have a lot of work to do in the coming months. So please be attentive to your agendas and board meetings. We'll work together on that. That was the extent of my comments, though. So I know many of you have a couple of things to say regarding I-77 South. If you'll allow me, I'll ask you to do that in the board member comments section just to facilitate the meeting. Any questions about the process that I just said? Great. We'll move to board member comments. I'll open the floor and then we'll adjourn. Now, Ms. Altman, yes, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good evening to all my colleagues. The Mecklenburg Board of County Commissioners represents all 1.1 million residents of this community. My 9-member board and we take our duties very seriously. On this board, around this dais, I believe Charlotte City Council member Ed Driggs and I are the only elected officials whose boards directly represent the residents most directly affected by this project. And it's something of a pattern in practice that this board does what it can to give respect and regard for what Mint Hill might want, or what Huntersville might want, or what Waxhaw might want, and on and on and on. So I ask us, why in this matter are we seeing such a strong divergence from, I think, that good faith effort that we try to undertake when we're decision making here? Well, if you have a lawmaker who is unconstrained by the law and potentially the facts and can come forward with coercive legislation, you can make a lot of things happen really fast. And I say unconstrained because I am dubious, and I think it is at present unsubstantiated, that the $60 million is an accurate number for what has been expended since January 1 of this year. I would like to see that. But I am more convinced that the proposal by Ms. Sawyer is unconstrained by law. And I would like to thank the Matthews attorney, Daniel, if you're here, if you would like to stand, for taking the trouble over the weekend to do the heavy lift for, I would say, all of us, because it sets very dangerous precedent what has been attempted here. This legislation proposes to retroactively punish lawful conduct by putting us all in the position of having financial liabilities for our constituents and the taxpayer for actions that were lawful when they were undertaken and are still lawful, and in fact are a legitimate exercise of our rights to represent as local government the interests here in this MPO. In addition, it potentially violates prohibitions against bills of attainders insofar as it singles out Charlotte Mecklenburg or any jurisdiction here that wishes to vote its conscience if we don't co-sign to the outcome desired by the Sawyer Amendment. It sets terrible precedent across the state to create a possibility that when an NCDOT project is given a green light, then once it is made manifest in plans, as happened in Matthews previously, and it becomes apparent that it is a total non-starter for the residents it's supposed to serve, that you are stripped of your ability to say no. The implications for that across the state are tremendous. And that may be why apparently Senator Sawyer got no traction today on her bill. No one took up her cause to my knowledge. Someone can correct me, but I don't think she did. And she didn't get it attached to any legislation that's moving forward today. Probably because everyone recognizes what terrible, dangerous precedent this would set. And it would also, in some ways, eviscerate the entire point of CARPO even coming. Because if the decisions we make can be completely overruled by the state government, I feel like, history is rhyming, but there would be really no purpose for us to spend our time coming up here to the government center to do the work we do month after month. So why would this body undertake an about face? I think it is because of the threat to each of your budgets, that if somehow this potentially unconstitutional legislation were to go forward, that you would be on the hook for a devastating bill for your budgets. And it is coercive, it is reckless, and it is hypocritical, because Senator Sawyer, in the same bill where she purports to strip our authority and ram this project down the throat of this region, she also apparently seeks to conduct a study to undo I-77 North. Make it make sense. It doesn't make sense. It's not fair. It's not equitable. So I would ask that everyone around this table allow this community the bandwidth to conduct the alternatives analysis that will allow us to validate or dispute from subject matter experts what has been brought forward by NCDOT that this community here in Mecklenburg County hates. Let us validate all of it. What parts of it must we live with? Where can we make innovations? And see where that leaves us. I respectfully submit that the North Carolina Board of Transportation should not schedule this for next month. We should be allowed to have a little breathing space to conduct the alternatives analysis to see what it renders. This has been an unfunded project on the STIP for years and years and years and years, and I don't see why in this interim period, when we are trying to do our due diligence and build consensus, that any rash actions need to be taken that would not allow us to do that work and see where it leaves us at the end. My board has been very clear in its direction from day one. As you all know, I received a directed vote when I came here last time to vote against this. I still have a directed vote to vote against this. For the record, Mecklenburg County government, the Board of County Commissioners, has been consistent in that regard. And we should turn aside bad faith tactics designed to scare and intimidate and coerce. And thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Altman. I'll recognize Councilman Ed Driggs.
So I think it's regrettable that Senator Sawyer is not here to respond to an indictment like that. I will not appoint myself, but in the interest of fairness, I think there are a few things that we need to recognize. For one, her bill provides that that moment at which the thing is taken out of the STIP is delayed until January. There was already a 3-month pause by NCDOT from the initial date at which the process was going to start by 3 months. So we've now had 9 months of deferral of definitive action by NCDOT in order to allow time for some of the work that you described to be done And so personally, I'm still under instruction from my counsel to cast a vote against, i.e. to support the rescission. But I think you also know that I have engaged pretty heavily trying to find an outcome here that is helpful to everybody. I think there is one. I think the idea of simply canceling this and allowing all of that investment not to occur is not a desirable result for this organization. $600 million towards a solution at that location and $100 million in bonus money. We have, if the bill passes, and again, my information is that it's likely to be in the budget. I believe the leadership supports that. My goal would be to see whether or not I can work with my council colleagues during that time to get answers to questions that opponents have raised, to questions that have been raised on this body. One thing I will also note is as to the illegal or coercive, remember this body made a promise. In 2024, we said that after a certain date, which came and went in August of 25, we would not involve ourselves any further. And frankly, I think that lays us more bare when it comes to the possibility. Just think of any commercial situation. You make a commitment, somebody spends money relying on it, and then you take it back. So I'm concerned that that could stick, frankly. We voted in 2014 to put this thing in motion. We put it in the P3, the P4, the P5, the P6, the P7, and P8. And relying on that, NCDOT continued to work on it. They told us a couple of years ago that if there wasn't a P3 possibility, they would stop working on it. And we all worked on it. The study group did, and then this body considered it. The trap we walked into, the unfortunate circumstance was that it wasn't until after we took our vote in 2024 that the degree of opposition from Charlotte neighborhoods became clear, which caused my colleagues then to change their position. So I think some of the characterization of the senator's actions are unfair, and I'm not sure about the legality of it. I would not want to rely on the fact that some court is going to tell them they can't do that. My own feeling about the power of the General Assembly is such, I'm not going to bet on that. I don't know. Personally, I'm not a lawyer. And so I hope that what we can do is avoid outright confrontation with the state of North Carolina, with NCDOT, take advantage, if we get this extra time, of the opportunity to conduct the study or take steps that might lead to an outcome that could be beneficial to everybody. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Driggs. I'll remind everyone, this is board member comments. You may speak on other things, by the way. This isn't I-77. I'll recognize Mayor Higdon and anyone else. Just raise your hand as we look around the room. And then Mr. Jones, you'll go next, and then Mr. Carney.
I'll continue the theme. I'll keep my comments brief. One thing that really irked me as this came to a head over the last few days is someone in Raleigh said that we made our decision to rescind on a whim. And I just want to talk about my own personal history here. I moved to the Charlotte area in 1975. When I was 12 years old, my parents bought a home near Park Road Park, and my brother and I frequently rode our bicycles from Park Road Park to the Tyvola Road I-77 interchange. In 1976, we stood very near there and watched the WBT Sky Show that was shot off from the NCNB Tower in downtown Charlotte. So I've lived in and around this area. And during the ensuing 50-plus years, I've driven up and down the I-77 corridor from North 77 to South Carolina hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times that equal thousands of miles in that corridor. And I'm not blind to the congestion that's there or the fantastic growth that we've had during that time period. But I will point out that every single delegate on this board that represents Mecklenburg County, every single municipality, with the exception of the mayor of Pineville, who stepped out briefly, but she would have voted to rescind as well. We all said we didn't want this because we thought it was a bad project. It didn't become good in the last month. The project, in my opinion, is not a good project. And Senator Sawyer's bill which puts a gun to our head. And I'm sure some of the towns that have decided to flip their stance, I suspect, are doing it because they're worried about the fiduciary impact to their taxpayers. If we're going to make decisions on this board with a gun to our head, we don't need to have this board. We can have the state legislature decide where the federal money is spent. And federal law mandates that we have a metropolitan planning organization here, and it mandates that the state and us work together collaboratively and cooperatively. And I don't think Senator Sawyer's bill in any way encompasses that goal. The only good thing I can say about her bill or her amendment is that it does extend the time that the money would stay in the STIP. And I'm all for that. Let's find a better solution. But the solution that's been put forward, elevated toll lanes that are going to destroy lots of very nice historic neighborhoods and do very little to address congestion, that's not something that I think we should do. And I don't think we should make sure that everybody that follows us, our kids, grandkids, and great-grandkids, pay tolls probably to a foreign entity for the next 50 years to the tune of billions of dollars. We need to find a better solution. And frankly, I reject that the P3 is the only way we can go. Other communities have done it without doing P3s. They've broken the projects up into smaller pieces and come up with solutions that don't require their citizens to continually pay tolls. I heard a story today that I'll share with you very quickly as I finish. I was talking to a developer, and he said he hired a young associate that lived in Cornelius, and this person drove to the South Park area every day. And he said, wow, this is great. I can go on the I-77 toll lanes, not realizing what they cost. And he got his first bill after 2 months, and it was $1,500 for 2 months of driving the toll lanes each day. So that's clearly not an acceptable solution for the people, for working class people that live here. We've got to do better, and we can't do our jobs with a gun to our head. We got to work collaboratively with NCDOT and the state, and I hope we can do that. I hope the money will stay in the STIP, and we can find a better solution.
Thank you, Mayor Higdon. Mr. Jones and Mr. Carney.
Yeah, I respect the comments that Charlotte and Mecklenburg reps have made, but I will reflect back on the last meeting. We were all put a gun to our head to make a decision without our board's recommendations. And I had asked that we had the opportunity to go back to our boards, inform the board of the decision. And even the state DOT staff representatives could not answer the question, what is the impact of this decision? And we made that vote like that. And we asked again, what is the impact of that decision? We're not even going to discuss it. So I think that's wrong. I didn't like the project, but I supported Charlotte and Mecklenburg because it was such a huge issue, traffic congestion. I will tell you, I think we need to take a moment. We have a failure in planning. How long have we been planning this project? I've been on this board for 6 years and we've been talking about it. So we have wasted 6 years, plus we have wasted taxpayers' resources. Plus, we talked about it tonight about public engagement. That's a failure. Here we presented a plan, we've studied it for 6 years, and we've done all this great public engagements, and we've had internet and all that stuff. Wow. And then we presented a project and the public went nuts. And you had Charlotte and Mecklenburg County flip. So I think this board and the DOT need to take a look at how we do planning and public engagements, because we have failed the city, the city of Charlotte, Mecklenburg County, in the region, but also at the state level. We have failed.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Mr. Carney?
So, a lot of faces in this room that I know and know well. There's some new individuals that I've not had the pleasure of meeting before. I'm going to go ahead and make the assumption that everybody in this room has got always the best interests of their community members, their residents that make up Mecklenburg County, Iredell County, our collective region. And we get faced with really difficult decisions on a fairly regular basis, I would challenge anybody, have you ever held a vote to where it was a purely positive, everybody was a yes, 100%? Our community, even voting on to keep our taxes the same, we had outcries of individuals saying, no, we need to raise taxes for various reasons at times. So there is never a time where you find total consensus of your community. What I think we all collectively do is we're trying to figure out what is the best net positive for our region, for our community, right? The best net positive. How do you find the best net positive? The way that you do that is you do that through collecting data, collecting details, and understanding all the impacts and ramifications of the actions for which you have to make. My concern and my problem plainly is that this board chose poor leadership last month by basically rushing to vote on something without all the data, without all the details, and without fully understanding the ramifications of those decisions. And I have a very big problem with that, and our community has a very big problem with that. I believe everybody in this room really does, in their heart of hearts, wants the best for their community. But you have to remember, we're trying to make the best net positive decision, and data matters, details matters, the implications. We are playing on a chessboard where every move that you make has a lot of impacts, whether it be at the state. I know we're now saying that we're being held hostage or that they can't do that. We don't believe that's legal. We have some legal opinions that say, no, they're probably well within their right to where they can do that. Who's to know? What I can say is it would have been nice for this board to take their time and understand the full ramifications of action before we made whatever decision was right. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Carney. Mr. Rosenberg?
Somebody like to go ahead?
No, I think you're the next in line. No other hands are up.
Few comments. First, if somebody has a $1,500 bill for tolls, I suggest they've not got a transponder. You should get them. They're very cheap. It drops the rate significantly. As a member of this body, I was provided with a legal opinion. I find it disingenuous that that opinion was sent out as if that was law. As my colleague on the left just said, many people have looked at this and feel the action that the legislature is contemplating is legal. Our cost to date is $64 million, which we can easily prove up. But I think the thing that bothers me is that the people around this table, a number, have voted on this repeatedly. I mean, I've been 7 years on the board. I've been working in this community since June of 2000. This has been dealt with for much longer than 6 years, voted, approved. And I think that you have to be realistic here and realize other people are happy to have this money. Let's be realistic. And they will gladly take it. And if a member of another community or a legislature feels that they can get this passed, they're going to work to get this passed. And I think that you have to remember, whether you say this is illegal or not, if the legislature passes this, the Department of Transportation will follow this. And there will not be any funds sent out if that's what the legislature requires. You can take this to court. But please remember, if it goes to court, the law still stands till it's turned over. This could take years to go through court system and get to the Supreme Court. So over that time, this money has to come back. We as the department will follow the law. We have no other choice but to follow the law. And it's the same with whether it's in or out of the STIP. We have procedures, and if it's turned down, then there's procedures we have to follow that will require us to take this out. I don't think the chairman would disagree with that. We're required by law to take this out. Yeah. So I think it's important that you look at the outcome of this decision, because it will have ramifications. Not just the ramifications for a road that's impassable, but the ramifications for the community and these costs. We have engaged 5 firms to come up with world-class designs. And if somebody has a better idea, please, God, put it on the table. Where have you been for the last 6 years? Let's get it on the table and take a look at it. We've looked at it. I can tell you I spent a lot of time as a board member on this, and this so far is the best solution we've seen. But we don't accept that as a board because we have asked these consultants to come up with their suggestions. So maybe in Hong Kong, there's a better proposal we haven't seen. Tunneling is not a viable option. A train replacing cars is not a viable option. So maybe there's other viable options out there. We've stopped. I think everybody realizes that we're not trying to do anything more. We've been told we have to stop. But if it was restarted, I think one of the things would be to let the designers see what they come up with to see if there's any viable approach that would satisfy the community.
Thank you, Mr. Rosenberg. Let's do maybe one or two more, unless there's something unique or different that you'd like to say. Anyone else?
Me.
Mayor Knox, and then we'll maybe conclude with Chairman Lathrop.
So I've approached this thing from day one a little differently than a lot of people do. 12 years ago, I was standing on a bridge at exit 28 with a protest sign before I was an elected official, protesting a project that was force fed to us in North Mecklenburg. It's done nothing for us up there. It has not mitigated traffic whatsoever. It's a bad project. It's a bad contract. We have a bad taste in our mouth in North Mecklenburg because of that. We are at revenue sharing now, 3 years ahead of schedule. There's no revenue shared to the state. It's going to maintain between the guardrails. I spend $400 plus every month to come to Charlotte. I can afford to do that. But the guy that mows my yard or takes care of my dog or teaches my child can't do that. They sit in traffic for an hour, hour and a half, one way to come to Charlotte while I breeze by them at 80 miles an hour, paying $5, $6 a section. That's not right. This project is no different. I don't think anybody on this board will disagree with me that doing nothing is not an option. We have to do something. But what was presented to us was just a flawed project. It did nothing. If you look at the metrics for what we see in North Mecklenburg, and look at the amount of traffic that's exponentially larger in the center city of Charlotte, it's not going to do anything. There has to be alternatives to look at outside the box that we haven't explored. I hope DOT comes back with something like that. I don't know if it's a stitch and cap for a portion of it. I don't know whether it's routing through traffic on 77 and tractor trailers on 485 other than local stops. I don't know what the answers are, but I think collectively between public input, the think tank that is this board and DOT, we can come up with better alternatives. My influence had little to do with public reaction, and I don't want to be dismissive of the Black Political Caucus or the homeowners associations with McCrory Heights and Wilmore or with Sustain Charlotte. I listened to them just like everybody else did too. My passion on this, my drive on not supporting this had to do with history. And that's the history that we have in North Mecklenburg. So all I would say was, if we're going to do this, we got to do better.
Thank you, Mayor Knox. Tony, did you have something to add or to?
Yeah, very, very brief. I'm not going to rehash what I said last month, except to say that everybody, I've worked with almost all of you, and everybody who knows me knows that I collaborate, and I feel like I've now am deprived of that, of the chance to do that by the rescission. But the department has worked on this project for years with local partners based on decisions and approvals made through the process here. And as with all projects, NCDOT relies on collaboration with local governments, and I personally and stakeholders, and I personally and DOT remains committed to working with our partners to deliver projects on behalf of the region. Just a few factual things. The 64 million has been spent since 2018 on this project. It's not all just in this calendar year. And it includes a lot of preliminary engineering and pre-construction activities. Since this project started being considered, there's been at least 230, if not more, community meetings, stakeholder meetings, community engagement, public meetings, small group meetings. You know, our role, DOT's role, is to follow the state law and to work with local communities to deliver projects that meet their needs. And, you know, if there's legislation, and I'm not here to talk about legislation, other people can talk about that. If it's enacted, you know, we will have to comply. We have no choice. It's the law. And the last thing I'll say is that once the project was rescinded, there's no way to fund it. And under the rules, it therefore has to be taken out of our capital plan and our STIP. And, you know, absent legislation or anything else, that is set to be discussed in July and to happen August 8th. And that's just a fact. It is what it is, and we have to do it. That's all I've got. Thank you, Brad.
Thank you. I said that was the last one, but Mayor Bell kindly asked for a word, and then I will come back to Mayor Higdon if we may.
As I say here, I've listened to everybody's comments, even the ones who oppose the project. You know, and I don't disagree with some of your comments. I don't like tolls. You know, I totally agree. And spending all this money going back and forth. And I totally agree with you, Mayor Knox, that doing nothing is not an option. With the speed of the growth of this city, this region, it's just crazy. So we've got to do something. I don't want for us to lose the money that we have from the state. But I know, you know, it's hard for us to, when Charlotte and the county and Mecklenburg County, they seem to have the voting power to outvote us, you know, no matter what we want. And I get how that works. But my thing is, let's see, I still feel, and I said it last time, this can be a win-win for all of us. It can be a win for the residents that come up here. It can be a win for the county, for the city, for the region. We just need to, you know, roll up our sleeves, as the expression goes, and work on it. I don't want to see us lose this opportunity. We've worked way too hard, too long on this. And so my question is, if you don't like this, bring something to the table. Come up with some ideas. I think we're all open to that. I don't see anybody here saying, no, I don't want anything. I think we all agree that there needs to be something done. And so I challenge everyone here on this board to come up with some ideas. Let's don't lose that funding that we have. Whether there's a P3 or something else, you know, let's come up with some ideas to make this happen, because this city, this region needs this. And so I think we can all work together on this. And from what I've heard, everybody's had some great ideas, you know, and I hear everybody's, you know, comments. So, and again, no, I don't like the expense of tolls and especially going to an outside foreign entity, that kind of thing. So I think we can do it. I think we can work on this. And I'd like to see Charlotte, the council, the county, come back with some ideas and say, hey, we haven't thought about this. Let's think outside the box and we can make this thing happen. So I'm just leaving that as a challenge to primarily you guys who really control the board. So.
Thank you, Mayor Bell. Mayor Higdon?
Yeah, just real quickly, for the record, I just want to say that I was right there with Rusty Knox in 2013 opposing the P3 in the north. I've been very consistent in my distaste for P3s. I voted against the P3 in October of 24, and I'm voted against it again this last time. I'm not a fan. I don't think our constituents want outrageous tolls going out of state. Let's forget about that for a moment. I want to ask Mr. Lathrop a question, Chair Lathrop. Is there a law that compels you to take the money out of the STIP by August, or isn't that up to NCDOT? You could wait till Christmas if you wanted to, couldn't you? What, is there a law that compels you to do that?
All right. Thanks, everyone, for being here tonight. Do more? Okay, good. Especially thanks for the respectful way in which we're speaking to each other. Very hot topic, very difficult topic. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Second? All in favor? Good night.